All right, welcome back. Of course, this is eNCA right here on DSTV channel of 403. We're coming to you live from Nasrec at the closing day of the 55th National Elective Conference. Earlier on, I had a conversation with Stan Matavata. But let me cross over now to my colleague, eNCA senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila, who I understand is standing next to Mdumiseni Ntuli, just to get words from him, of course, as today comes to an end. Aviwe?
So in the case, Tumelo, I have Mdumiseni Ntuli, the man that was standing for the position of Secretary General of the African National Congress. It was a hotly contested seat, and results show how tight that race was. We know that Fikile Mbalula is now the current SG of the African National Congress with more than 1,600 votes, and closely followed by Phumulo Masualle, who got 1,500 plus, but also Mdumiseni Ntuli was there in the thousands, just above 1,000 votes for that position. That will talk, of course, from him coming from KwaZulu-Natal, not getting the support there. Some of the issues that I want to touch on then with Mdumiseni Ntuli. Thank you for joining us at eNCA. But I want you to first maybe interpret, how do you interpret this loss of the Secretary General position for you?
Firstly, let me just congratulate the elected top 7 of our movement, President Ramaphosa and the collective, and particularly Comrade Fikile Mbalula, who occupies a very strategic position in the current phase of the National Democratic Revolution. Because what will make us succeed or fail between now and the future is how the headquarters of the ANC organizes itself and prepares the movement as a whole to discharge its responsibilities to the masses of our people in this country. So I'm also very humbled, very proud of the work that was done by a number of our comrades who are both my generation and my seniors, who placed their confidence and support on my candidature to stand as the Secretary General of the African National Congress. And I want to say to them and many others who are at home that this outcome is an outcome that I'm fully behind with, I support entirely, and I've indicated to the SG that I'm readily available to occupy whatever responsibilities that he and the collective of our Apex top 7 leadership of the African National Congress will designate for me, because I went to this contestation fully understanding that this is not about ourselves, not about individuals, it's about the contribution that each one of us have to make in the reconstruction and development of our country, and with the ANC as a preeminent leader of that task and the evolution of our country.
Now, you've gained quite a lot of ground nationally when it comes to garnering nominations and votes. That's not the same. We went to the provincial conference in KwaZulu-Natal where you didn't emerge part of the top 5 leadership, nor did you make it into the PEC. But you seem to have more ground nationally. What does this say about your support base?
What it says, actually, it communicates a very, very humbling message about the fact that a number of our comrades and structures throughout the country have been very observant of what we're doing as Provincial Secretary of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, and even before that, as we were in the headquarters before as the National Organizer of the African National Congress. We have been making a contribution, however minimal, which I think this National Conference support that one has received actually confirmed that that contribution that we've been making has been impacting positively within the ranks and the file of the African National Congress. And I'm very grateful, very proud of the journey that one has traversed. Given my age and given the time that one still has in the African National Congress, I'm quite certain that we have more to learn, we have more experience to accumulate, and we have more time and energy and commitment to contribute to the reconstruction and development of our country, because the central task of the ANC, that we who are young comrades and still being developed and being built as part of the cadreship of tomorrow, have a responsibility to understand that we are here not for ourselves. We are here because the movement has embarked on a particular journey 110 years ago, and this chain is proceeding. We are in that chain, and we have a responsibility to make a decisive contribution that will really, really speed up the process of change in our country.
Now, when you look at KwaZulu-Natal, it is, of course, the biggest voting bloc. But what we've seen for the first time, starting in Nasrec 2017, they weren't part of the top 6, nor did any candidate from KwaZulu-Natal make it into the top 7 now. I want maybe your assessment of what's going on.
Look, my initial impression is that you see the national landscape is a bit challenging and complex. Need a bit of time to understand it, to acclimatize to it, and to engage and build solid relations with the rest of the provinces. I feel for my own leadership. They were elected in July. Both the chair and the secretary have not been part of the National Executive Committee, let alone that neither of the two have had a privilege in the past to occupy the positions that they are occupying today. To be elected and having to confront a number of by-elections that were taking place at that time, and equally having a responsibility to ensure that you also engage the national structures of the ANC, or let me say other provinces, in your own effort to lobby for the position of KwaZulu-Natal, was indeed a very challenging experience. I think we can't entirely blame them. It's a complex environment. The support you garner or you accumulate throughout the country and in other provinces is also dependent on the history that we have had in the course of the engagement with a number of structures of the ANC. And I'm saying to you, if you look at the current leadership in the country of different provinces, probably KwaZulu-Natal is one of the two, if not the only province that is led by a newly elected secretary, a newly elected chairperson. Clearly those comrades were going to find it very difficult to move around quickly after they are elected and build not just a PR exercise, but really to interact and find a way in which they would build confidence with a lot of structures and provinces in order for the support to be provided for the candidates coming from KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay, now, of course, we're heading to the 2024 elections with this top seven elected now recently. What should be the focus then of the top seven and the ANC going forward?
You know, I've been one of the ardent advocates of the reconfiguration of the ANC to have a top seven, to have two DSGs. I hope that the leadership is going to assign the responsibilities to the two DSGs along two lines. One, to deal with the organizing and campaign and ensure that is carried out by somebody who sits at that apex level of the leadership, and the other one to deal with the challenges of governance and to deal with the challenges of ensuring that we produce this new cadreship which is required by the current phase of the National Democratic Revolution. But central to that task is that we have to move ahead with the important task of the renewal and the unity of the African National Congress. I wish the national leadership that is going to be elected here in its totality will give a priority to the unity of the ANC. Because you see, the reason why the ANC doesn't perform well in a number of areas in terms of the elections, firstly is because the ANC is not united in those areas or in those communities. But secondly is the inability of the ANC-led government to provide services that meets the expectation of our people. So this leadership has, in my own view, twin urgent tasks, which is the consolidation and the unity of the African National Congress on one side, but equally to speed up the service delivery, the service delivery program in various parts of our country. If we succeed in those two, I think that we stand a good chance in 2024 for the mass of our people to reaffirm the African National Congress as the preeminent leader of the South African population in the National Democratic Revolution.
My parting question, what is next for Mdumiseni Ntuli? Where to from here?
The ANC will decide what I do. I've availed myself to be elected in the National Executive Committee. The Secretary General of the ANC and the entire leadership will then determine, if I get elected, what becomes my other responsibilities. But personally, I will not choose. I've been exposed to the organizing of the ANC, been exposed to the secretariat of the ANC. I've been a provincial spokesperson of the ANC. By virtue of being a provincial secretary, I also had the responsibility to be the main communicator of the ANC. So the ANC has invested in me in one or the other. It will decide what of these things that it has invested on that it wants to take and utilize, probably at a national level or even there still in my own province, in order to ensure that it succeeds in its own agenda. But for me, I've told the SG when I congratulated him that, look, I'm at your disposal. I'm one of the comrades in the ANC who understand that conferences are events. When we are done with the event, the new leadership must be supported by all of us, because nobody is perfect and nobody brings to the ANC all the talents that are required. But we must reinforce each other in order to succeed.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Mdumiseni Ntuli, of course, who stood for the candidacy of Secretary General, did not make it. Now just saying that his next role will be at the hands of the African National Congress, mentioning that he's availed himself to be part of the NEC, National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. That is the highest decision-making body in between conferences.